Good day, everybody. Welcome to Shepherd's Corner, having conversations with Archbishop Charles Jason Gordon. You know, it looks like he's on a theme. You know, we've been doing education, and we're still on education. I want to ask him, I said, but wait a minute, but we're on holidays. What's this education theme that you're on? You know, you all picked up your Catholic news as yet? The Catholic news, here is the kicker. No time for boredom. Lots to do during the holidays. You all hear that? Lots to do during the holidays. So let's welcome the Archbishop. Good day, sir. How are you?
Very good, Deacon Derek. Very, very good. You know that many children come to their parents, I am bored. I am bored. As if it's the parents' responsibility to keep them entertained. And the worst part of it is that the parents themselves think that they're responsible to keep their child entertained. And so when the child say, I am bored, they think that they need to fix the problem. We go fix it differently this year.
Boy, what a generation. I mean, I didn't have time to be bored when I was young. I didn't have time to be bored.
No. I have a different experience to you. Very different experience. I didn't know they had a concept called boredom. I didn't know they had a concept called boredom. When I was a young adult and I hear children bored, I'm bored. I say, I must try out this boredom thing just once. So it could be at least empathetic towards children who feel that boredom is a thing. Okay. So let's go into the but no time to be bored.
But here it is. So my question, and the big question today is, are holidays a help or a hindrance to children? And I want to use the word children of nowadays.
Now I would say, let me use the word children of all days. Because I started with me inside the story. So you can't use a nowadays child and so you just so discriminating against me. No, this is ageism, This is ageism. You just so you decide you discriminating against me and want to restrict me only to a nowadays child. No, Deacon.
I'll back it back. Let me back.
You see, as a child, I used to look forward to holidays, okay? In fact, the only reason I went to school was because school had holidays. The only reason I went to school was because I knew in X number of weeks, I'll have holidays again. And if not for the holidays, I don't know how I would have enjoyed school. And that's the absolute truth. So it's not just I look forward to holidays. I live for the holidays. And school was a necessary evil to get through, to put up with, to sacrifice for, to be able to have the holidays that would come after. That was my world. What about you?
A thumbs up for that.
For me, holidays was this very magical time that allowed for play, for fun, for roaming the neighborhood with friends, with family. And it was a time of real freedom, where you meet up with your friends, you doing all kinds of things. When I was in Woodbrook, we had a little drain behind our house that ran under the park and ran under the street and went down the road. And I mean, we would race jockey in the drain, or in the evenings or during holiday times. The park right there by me was magical and full of life. Children was in and out, everybody. If it was kite season, everybody flying kite. If it was not kite season, it was bokeh, it was marbles, it was playing catch. It was, everything was available. And you know, the nice thing was that it was good, clean fun.
Yeah.
There wasn't anything destructive to anybody, or it wasn't anything that was risky in any way, but it was good, clean fun. There was one golden rule though. Don't let the street lights catch you outside. You had that golden rule too? Huh?
Why, I could tell about that golden rule.
Your back could tell about the golden rule too.
Your back could tell about the golden rule. My mother used to have a bell, partner, a bell, just to give you the second reminder. You know what I mean? In case you didn't see the street lights on, you heard the bell.
You heard, no. Those who can't hear,
Yeah, will feel.
So, yeah, the golden rule was simple, you know. Don't make the street lights catch you outside. For a while, I lived in a Rima in the textile compound. Well, that was even more fun.
Yeah.
Because the textile compound had orchards. And then they had, everybody's house had different fruit trees. So we used to be all over the place and through the orchards and then they had a big park. We had a little game. I had one of these little cars where you push your 2 feet and you drive your car. And an older fella said, "Come, let me do that better." He tied up a rope onto my car to his bicycle, and we used to be go all over the compound. I mean, it was imagination. Imagination was just abounding in everything. You know, playing marbles was big thing. Climbing the trees, picking fruit, eating fruit, chow, everything. When I lived in St. James, I had cousins around the corner. And boy, they lived on Panka Street with the cemetery opposite them. So you had a whole street clear. And we used to do bike racing. We used to do all kind of things. Because it wasn't a street that had a lot of traffic. Cricket in the road, football in the road, jockey in the canal. I mean, you name it, we used to do it. It was really almost, for me, it was just magical, you know. And you could go wherever your bike could take you, but don't cross the main road and don't leave the village. Except when my mother used to call me because she used to sew, and sometimes she needed covered buttons for a dress she was doing, and she'd call me by my cousins and say, come home. When I come home, I had to go and run a message for. Then I used to cross the main road because we had to go and get that organized and come back, and sometimes everybody going on for these 6 buttons, everybody going on them.
The whole line going.
Everybody going for buttons. But, you know, it was really, really magical. It was absolutely magical. There was a sense of awe, of freedom. And if you ask me what I feel most sorry for, I feel most sorry that children today don't have that freedom. I feel most sorry that children today can't be children with that sense of freedom in our country that we had when we were growing up. I really feel sorry for that, because with all that is happening today, you wouldn't let your child roam free like that unless you're in a compound that is enclosed. You wouldn't let your child jump on a bike and go here, go there, go everywhere without checking in. You know, we had no cell phone, you know. Yeah. So when my mother wanted me, she called my cousins and sent a message. And whenever we land up back by the house, hey boy, your mother called you. Well, it's pace. Pace down the road. Not even a proper goodbye or nothing, you know.
Go on.
And sometimes our pace was a race between fellas back to my house.
That is what you call the good old days. And I share a lot of those similar things with you because we also lived in a Rima for a short time, not too far from the same textile factories. And we used to go and fish in the river for coscarab and sardine and all them kind of things. You know what I mean? So I remember those days really, really good.
Boy, the one thing that remained with me most mysterious about the holiday time was my sister. She remained a complete enigma to me. My sister's greatest enjoyment was sitting down at home, reading books, all holidays. There was a time she used to pass through a book a day.
Wow.
It was really a mystery to me. The first mystery is that you will sit down on your own with nobody asking, telling, cajoling, forcing you, and actually read. That was very mysterious to me. And the second mystery was that she enjoyed this thing. And the third mystery was that she could do it every day, all day, and be absolutely content and happy. I couldn't understand it, but as a young boy, I just put it down to, well, the strange ways of girls. And that was the end of that. But it was really strange. I was playing cricket, football, riding bikes, liming. You couldn't catch me with a book during holidays unless it was a significant penance for my father. If I do something really wrong and he tell me, well, now your penance is sit down here until you finish this. Well, I would think that would be the absolute worst penance that anybody could inflict on a child. I'd have had to call the Human Rights Convention and Amnesty International for that penance. What about you?
Boy, same thing. I'm telling you, listen, man, you gotta be joking. I'm going to pick exactly what you say. We're gonna fish, pitch marbles, run jockey with your box cart, fly kite, spin top, all of the things that boys would slingshot, all kinds
slingshot.
These
some people had pigeons, racing pigeons. Amazing. You name it. And looking back, clean fun, eh?
Clean fun.
Clean. Real chat. There's a woman, Alice Miller. She wrote a book, which I consider a very important book, The Disappearance of Childhood.
Yeah.
As a major challenge for society. And I think she's absolutely right. The childhood freedoms, the play that we had, they don't have that today.
Yeah.
They don't have that today.
And there was a whole camaraderie. You talked about all six, all you're running down to, or all of y'all going to run to get the buttons, because my mother used to sew too. So there are similarities here, you understand? My mother sewing, but and so many similarities here about, but growing up as, and all healthy fun. I don't know anybody who lost their life. I don't know anybody who, you bruise up your knees, you know what I mean? All them kind of things. That's normal.
Listen. Don't talk about bruise knee, Don't talk about, because I was famous for a bruise knee. I bruise every knee. I bruise it on top of the bruise. I bruise the bruise on the knee. And the nice thing is, you get white man, you get up, you watch it, and you say, well, boy, you're going home.
Yeah.
So my mother used to invest in shares in sulfur powder.
Mercurochrome.
The mercurochrome was a good first start.
Yeah.
But my skin didn't heal easily. So she used to get the yellow sulfur powder.
Yeah, I know it.
Throw that in the cut. We used to burn me. But take that like a man and just move on. Next day, you're gone again.
Yeah.
But what is interesting in the holiday time, when I look back now with adult eyes, I can see what the child could not see in those days. Both my sister and I have learning difficulties. And so for me, school was always a penance, and holidays was my reprieve. My sister had learning difficulties too. And for her, whereas school was not a challenge for her, she enjoyed school. She really did well in school. She loved the reading, and she did so well. But we both had challenges with spelling. She overcame her reading challenges by reading excessively, and she overcame her spelling challenges by reading. So when I would ask her how you spell something, she'd close her eyes and she would see it written on a page of a book that she had read. And this is how you spell it. And then she'd tell me. Now, that was a mystery to me. That was the big mystery. Now, for me, every new term was a drama, a challenge to settle back down and to refocus. And as much as I love the holiday time, the school time was as much drama or proportional drama to the enjoyment of the holiday. If you understand a mathematical formula, that's it. So this Shepherd's Corner, or this conversation is for you parents who have children like me or grandchildren like me who didn't settle well in school, who didn't do good, didn't like school, didn't do well in it. Is also for parents who don't know what to do with their children during the holiday time and don't know how to help structure it. Each term was a drama because each term required me to refocus, and that refocus was tough. But the old time people had rituals for it. Mm-hmm. The old time people had rituals. You see, 2 days on the Wednesday, ordinarily the Thursday before the end of holiday, either the Wednesday or the Thursday.
Yeah.
The week where holiday was ending.
I know where you're going, I know where you're going.
I sure you had a ritual too.
I had a ritual.
All I want to say is I got a half of orange to suck. That was after I got wherever castor oil or Cenapod, whatever the flavor of the month was for that holiday. On that Wednesday, you get that. The Thursday, the Wednesday could go nowhere. The Thursday could go nowhere. Friday, you're going nowhere. So by Monday, when school starts, they settle you back down properly.
But those people who don't know what we're talking about, you're getting your purge come the end of the holidays, preparing you're clean to start a new term. Starting a new term clean.
Boy, rituals.
They don't know that nowadays. Not at all.
When I look at the story of the holiday time, and I look at the difference between how my sister spent her holidays and how I spend my holidays, as a child, I thought the most obvious difference or reason was the difference between boys and girls. But one was ready to stay home and focus, and the other, with wild abandon, roam the village. And that is maybe part of the story. But I would say that's only a part of it. During primary and secondary school, my sister did far better than me in schoolwork. In school, everybody knew she was bright. And there was no question about whether she was bright or she was bright. She was bright. Everybody knew. I struggled through every single term of school. And my worst day in the world was the day when the report was due and it got into the hands of my parents. That day was always the worst day in the term. If I could have redone school, I would redo school without a report card coming to appearance. But, you know, when my sister sat common entrance exam, she went into the exam and came home. Well, how was it? How was it? She said, well, that was so boring. I said, what do you mean? She said, well, I was finished what was on the sheet, and they wouldn't allow me to turn my page. So I have to sit down now while all these people trying to finish what I'd done finish already. And I had no book to read. I had nothing else I could do. And I just had to sit down and wait. And when they got and finished, then I was allowed to turn the page and go to the next section of the exam. And every section, I sit down waiting on that. I say, didn't check it back. I check back everything twice. And I still waiting on them. Well, all I could tell you is, you know, my sister was very different from me. My sister was very different from me.
Oh, Lord.
When the results of the exam came out, she passed in the top of the island. She was going to St. Teresa's school. A teacher came home by us to tell mom, Elizabeth passed this exam, not top of her school, but in the top of this island. Well, all I'm telling you is she was different from me.
Everybody outside there, she was different to the Archbishop. Elizabeth was different to Archbishop Charles Jason Gordon.
Different. You see, when I wrote the exam the first time, I tell you, I never like a results day, you know. Because I thought the exam was good until I got the result. I absolutely failed that first 11 plus exam. And that's after taking extra lessons, staying back in school, the whole 9 years and full drama. Fail. You know what I mean? Fail. I didn't even get into a 4-year school.
Hold on. For the first time on television, the Archbishop is making this confession. Well, there are two confessions. They are also mine. When I didn't even pass for a 4-year school. Yeah. So I just want to let the people know outside here. And I tell the kids when I come to talk to them, you know, when they're doing the SCA, I say, fellas, listen, don't worry. You know what I mean? You live.
The day after the results came out, the shock and awe had faded down. The nice thing is nobody expected me to pass anyhow.
Anyway, yeah.
The father told me a long time after he was very relieved because for him, the worst nightmare is if I'd gotten into a Woodbrook Secondary or a school like that, it would have been hard to send me back to primary school to have to do it one more time because of how stressful it was. But the fact that I had failed completely gave him relief. How you like that? Huh?
Well, I feel we must hear the same father. I'm just saying so.
Look, so I failed, completely failed. Next time I sit the people in them exam, I see my father wasn't overly stressed. Neither my parents stressed out about exams. Looking back, I think they just knew I wasn't going to do well and nobody worried. You know? When the results they came through, and it said that I got into Fatima College, I could have done cartwheels. I could have jumped up and down for joy. I couldn't believe that was possible. But then I found out two things after the fact. The first thing is that St. Anthony's College was a private school, and if you had put down $250, which in those days was like a month's rent, eh?
Yeah.
That was big money in the early 70s. If you put down $250, your boy was guaranteed a place in the school after the SE. And my father went and put down $250 in St. Anthony's College. And he said to me and to all of his friends, is the best money he ever lost in his life. It was the absolute best money he ever lost in his life. Well, when I look at it, you know, I got in Fatima College on the 20%. Everybody talking Concordat? Well, I got in on the 20% in Fatima because I had an aunt whose son was going to Fatima College and died in a bicycle accident. He used to ride competitively, and he died in a bicycle accident. He was killed on one of the highways. And the principal of the school was a priest, Father Ryan, went to visit my aunt several times because of the grief of her son. So she got to know him, and she called him and said, Father, I have a nephew who is writing the exam, and I would really like him to go to Fatima College. And he said, of course, Ethel, I would see what I could do. And he wrote the form recommending me. My father never signed up, you know. He wrote the form recommending me. He went to Ireland and got sick. So I was one of the few people he wrote a form recommending. So Fatima College said, well, if Father Ryan, who is the principal, who is sick, recommend this boy, we better bring this boy in the school. That's how I got into Fatima College. It had no virtue of exams or natural intelligence.
Yeah.
I would have to say it's God's grace, just by God's grace. But here's what I want to, the point of the fun that we're having. Years ago, I would have attributed the difference in the holiday and school to boy and girl, and how each one grows and develops, what each one likes and doesn't like. And that would be kind of my frame of reference. But sometime back, I read a book by Malcolm Gladwell, Outliers. And if you've never read a Malcolm Gladwell book, you really need to read one. Gladwell is a thinker who thinks so far outside the box that they nearly have no box. One of his articles in Outliers, he was looking at Canadian hockey and Canadian ice hockey. And, you know, that's a big sport in Canada. And he said, you know, when you look at all the big stars in Canadian ice hockey, they all have their birthdays either in January, February, or March.
Wow.
And he said, you know, is it a lucky charm? And he digs and digs and digs, and he realizes that in Canadian ice hockey, you get the year you're born, you join a year group. And for a 10-year-old boy, 9 months is a great developmental difference. So a boy born in January and a boy born in December is developing totally different. Mm-hmm. And so by 7 years old, when you're joining ice hockey, a boy born in January has a significant advantage over a boy born in November or December, in height, in development, in growth, in all kinds of ways. But they're both competing in the same group. And then when that happens, it really puts one to the fore. So it's really nothing more than a birthday that caused that. Yeah. But in this other article, Gladwell talks about, he looks at a study on schools and the development of rich and poor children. And he asks the question, are our schools failing the poor children? Because by and large, poor children do not do well in school. And he looked at it And then he found a study of somebody who administered an exam at the end of a term and at the beginning of terms. And this person realized that it wasn't that the school was failing poor children, is that holidays were failing poor children.
Wow. Wow. That's interesting.
Holiday time was failing the child, or the child was failing during the holiday time. What he recognized, and this is chapter 9 in Outliers, and so all of this comes from Gladwell. He cites a study by Carl Alexander from the Johns Hopkins University on the performance of children. And they tracked 650 children from the first grade in Baltimore, right, in maths and reading, right through their school. And over a 5-year period, you can see where the richer middle class kids kept advancing and the poorer kids kept falling behind. But the falling behind was not because of the term, it was because of the holidays.
What?
Yes.
That's interesting.
This is a phenomenal study. So what it demonstrates is that the poor, the middle, and the wealthy child begin with scores that are not very far from each other at the beginning of Standard 1.
Okay.
At the end of Standard 1, their scores are not very far from each other. They go out on holidays, they come back into Standard 2, and the middle class and wealthy child has gone up in their scores from when they left Standard 1 to when they're coming back into Standard 2. The poor child has dropped in their scores from when they left Standard 1 to when they come back into Standard 2. In other words, where the poor child is losing ground is not in the term, it's actually in the holidays.
Boy, that is an interesting study. You know, right now your parents thinking about this holidays thing, you know.
Well, I want parents and grandparents to think about holiday time. As much fun as I tell you I had, and now children will come and quarrel with me for spoiling their fun, we have to think about holiday time from a very different perspective now. You see, a middle class or rich family would throw resources behind a child during holiday time. They'd go to 1 or 2 camps. They would do something new. They would learn something new. They would have to read a book if they want to do that. They would also have a museum. They would have things that they would do together. They would engage in activities that are more structured, while they would have the free abandon and the time to do the things they want to do. Today, we have a different challenge, because during holidays, children spend far, far, far too much time on their devices. Far too much time on the devices. And I have enough studies on that to tell us that children who are spending too many hours on their devices are not getting the neurodevelopment that they actually need, because they're not getting the socializing, and they're not getting the ability to play with each other. They're not getting the capacity to be able to forgive and to learn from each other. And so too much device time is a real big challenge that you have to look at in a modern holiday child. I never had that problem back by my time, you know, because it wasn't catching me indoors for no good reason. So when you look at this thing, Alexander conducted his tests not just at the end of a term and at the end of the next term. He conducted the test at the beginning of the new term. And so we have the results of what happens to a child during the holiday time that has no structured activity, that has no learning opportunity, that has not done anything meaningful in terms of learning. That child slips backwards during holiday. The child who had structured activity, who had meaningful learning, who had focus on what they were doing, that child jumps points and goes into the next term a little more advanced than the other children in the school. So what that says to me is that what my sister was doing was jumping forward every holiday time. Yeah. What I was doing was jumping backwards every holiday time. It had nothing to do with boy and girl, or naturally bright or not natural or not bright. It really had to do with the way she used her holidays, took her into the next term with a reading score that would have been plenty higher than when she left the term. When I went into the next term, my reading score would have been plenty low, and I would have forgotten a whole pile of stuff of what was taught in the last term. And so I was starting with a deficiency in my new term. Yeah. Isn't this an amazing study?
It is a fantastic study. And I don't think, we never thought about it that way. It was boys and girls, be different. You know what I mean?
Exactly. But it's also why the girls are doing better. Yes. It's not because of natural aptitude alone. It's because they are more focused, mature earlier, are willing to make sacrifice, and will use their holidays differently. Yeah. So what emerged was very intriguing, because if you look over a 5-year time, when you drop back a couple points in a holiday and you start the new term, you are now in a deficiency compared to your peers who are richer. And you go, even if you hold your way through that second year, in the next holiday, you drop back again. Over 5 holidays, that drop in holiday time was a significant drop and impacted greatly and had a cumulative effect on the performance of a child. So it's not that education was failing the children, it was that the holiday experience across social classes is so different. And that contributed significantly to the end of the year with the elementary school results, with poor children slipping backwards every year, and rich children and middle-class children moving forward every year. The 5-year gap between the classes was really amazing. Now, this is the kind of work that Gladwell does. Wow. That's why I always read him, because it gives you something you've been thinking about, but he gives you a new perspective on it that you had never thought about before.
Right. And therefore, when we have studies like that, and that's why it's so important that we get these studies from Gladwell, then we're better able to, advise our parents, advise families, and so on, and support them, yes, to support them, as church, correct, as communities, as families.
Correct. So it's not the schools that are failing, it's the holidays that are failing. That means we had to look at the holidays so different now. During the long vacation, children who just simply hung out, watched television, played video games, and got little mental stimulation, fell behind in their holidays. Rich children went to camps, played board games, read books, visited museums, had structured conversations, and thus learned formally and informally over those 2 months. They jumped ahead. And if we understand that, now let's start planning for the children of this country.
Amen.
We have to start planning now for the children of the nation. But before we get that, why did we even have long holidays? I love this little piece from Gladwell, you know. He goes back into the 19th century when education started to become a thing in Europe and then in America. And when he looks out, what he finds is that, you know, educators always use analogies for learning. And in Europe, if you're a potato farmer, you had to give the land time to lay fallow before you could plant your next crop of potatoes for the nutrients, etc., etc. Otherwise, the land the production will decrease constantly.
Right.
And educators, when you listen to 19th century educators, those were the metaphors they were using.
Mm-hmm.
You had to let the brain lie fallow to be able to regenerate so that learning could take place again. Now, if you were living in India or China and your staple crop was rice, as soon as you finish reaping one rice harvest, you plant the next one immediately. And so the return time on the replanting was much quicker.
Right.
And so India and China and Asia generally, well, India had the British system imposed upon it. But if you take China and the rest of Asia that didn't have the British system imposed on it, they didn't have no long holidays. And that's why Asian children are better at maths and science than American and British children. They get more hours, less holidays, more focus, and therefore the gap in the falling backwards is not there, and therefore they keep moving forward. It had nothing to do with natural genes, you know.
You're going to cause a revolution here now, you know. I could just see them picketing the Archbishop's house, eh? All the children going to be picketing your house.
Well, yes, but when they get through at the end of their 5 years and do better than they think they can do, they'll come back and thank me after. So one of the reasons that my sister excelled and I struggled through primary school wasn't nothing to do with any difference of masculine and feminine, boy or girl. It was structured holiday activity around reading a book every day, as opposed to me allowing my mind to be fallow and do nothing that was structured and nothing that had anything to do with learning. At advanced levels, my sister did extremely well. You know, at university, her first year university, her grades was off the charts. Well, I would say very humbly that's where she stopped excelling me.
I hope you're watching this one.
But we will leave that alone. I am a late starter, let me just say so. But when I get going well. If you take the stories here seriously of my sister and myself, and if you take Alexander's research and Gladwell's perspective seriously, I hope what you're hearing here is a call to action of how we use our holiday time better. That's what I'm really hoping that you're hearing. You know, we have to look at the holiday time differently from how we did it before. And I am sure that there were other factors that led to the difference in our school experience, my sister and myself. But you can't discount Gladwell's insights that reveals a major factor with a huge knock-on effect. You can't discount that. If you're a parent, if you're a grandparent, if you're a guardian, if you take care of children, if you do children's ministry in a parish, scouts, youth group, then I'm asking you, please take note. You have a sacred obligation to create structured learning opportunities for your children. And if you if you can afford, find a camp or 2 camps. They're great investments for the children, especially camps that do structured learning that are interesting. There are multiple camps would be even better over a 6 or 8 week holiday. Check your parish, check your community. I know this week, Sandy Grandi, St. Francis Parish, had a major camp, a Bible camp with all kinds of great activities for the children. Check your local schools. See what's on offer. Go online. Or better than that, if your child is a little bit, like 8 or 9, send them online and let them go hunting for things that would be structured learning that would be enjoyable for them. And let's pull it together. If you've not done it before, your parent or grandparent or guardian, formed.org is a free site from us to you. Usually you pay $20 US a month as a household to have the site. It's like a Catholic Netflix. On form.org, you have great audiobooks on children's, on the lives of the saints, and great videos on the lives of the saints. A story doesn't have to be the cartoons that have all the bad values that are being kicking around, where the child is in rebellion to the parents. We could actually do some good structured stuff. Formed.org. Remember that. Go back to last week's Catholic News, where there was an offer for children and parents to learn how to plant and how to grow food at home. Yeah. Go back, find last week's Catholic News, or go online and find it. There was an offer where we are saying that we will run courses during the holidays teaching you how to plant. And imagine if you could get your children planting some of the yard and moving from the grass and the flowers into some vegetables and some spices and some this and some that. That would be a learning opportunity for them, that would be focused, that would be outdoors, that would be fun, that they could do it together. If you have cousins, get a group of them in it, let them, they like a little competition. Whose garden going to be best when holiday time finish? There's some wonderful opportunities you can have.
Yeah, even our Bible Institute down in Caroni is running a camp also, and you can't beat the price. You can't beat the price.
Go to the Bible Institute camp.
Yeah,
you could find it in the Bible Institute Facebook page. So they have opportunities inside the church. They have opportunities in your parishes, in the schools, and in your communities. But I am begging you, please, I'm begging you. If you are a parent, a grandparent, a guardian of a school-age child, let's make the holiday time both a time of fun, but also a time of some structured learning for them. This is so important. What I would propose is that you have the child do the research and find the things that they want to do. And then you structure it, create a budget. Same way you have to have a budget during term, create a little budget. It's worthwhile investing in the child during a holiday time to give some structure. And then what I would say is you let them manage the budget. Let them manage it. Okay, we want to do this camp, great. How much is the camp going to cost? How much is transport going to cost? How much of the budget is going to go onto this? And let them learn the value of money, the value of budget, the value. And the same way the child gets to school is the same way the child gets to camp. But let's really work with the children this round to ensure that they get some structure during their holidays while they have, and are pleading for this too, while they have great fun time, great outdoors time, great alignment time with their friends, their cousins, great time out. If they're into football and cricket, get them into a cricket camp or football camp, get them into whatever sports they like, get them into a camp with that, because that's also another form of structured learning and body discipline. But let's keep them going. Make sure there's a religious content to the holiday time, huh?
Yeah.
Because now if you go to form.org, they have great Lives of the Saints on audio. And that would be another way for the learning to happen. And so that one is available to you right now. You don't have to wait on that one. You could download it in your phone. When you go onto form.org, go to sign up. It will ask you parish, and you just put the name of your parish, and you will see it. It's usually in a cluster, and it mightn't be your parish, it might be the parish next door with the cluster, but you'll see it. And click on that, and then say, if you can't find all of that, just put Archdiocese of Port of Spain. You'll see it, click on it, sign in. When you do that, what you will have is an access to at least some things. You could get them, go and listen to that, come back and tell me about that story. I want to know about Joan of Arc. Yeah. I want to know about St. Ignatius. I want to know about St. Dominic. Go and listen to this and come back and tell me about the story. That alone is a wonderful way of growing faith and structuring the holidays.
You know, what I'm hearing is that you want them to find a balance, to strike a balance between structured learning, unstructured leisure time during holidays, the spiritual aspect of it. So I'm hearing...
And a prayer time.
And a prayer time, yeah, find that balance. Find the balance.
Find the balance in it. Find the balance in it. Now, a great resource that I think is underused in Trinidad is NALIS. The National Library and Information System. Every child in this country should have a NALIS card. Every child. Why? Because if you have a NALIS card, you could get free books at any time. And you could get free physical books, but you also have online books.
Yeah.
And it would be a wonderful thing to go down to the library, get your child a NALIS card, and let them browse, pick a few books, and read a book. Give them a week to read the book. Don't do like my sister. Give them a week to read the book, and then, return to the library, pick a new book, and go again. If they're like my sister and they're running through a book a day and you can't get to the library often enough, then, let them use online books, because they have lots of access to great ebooks age appropriate for kids.
Yeah. This is important, and this is what I Heidi, my second daughter, she actually went to NALIS and got her 7-year-old to join up, and therefore they make that like a outing, and they say, all right, we're going to NALIS, and it's amazing. We have fantastic libraries throughout Trinidad and Tobago.
Well, just do a Google search.
Yeah.
You'll find where NALIS is, find your nearest NALIS, go and sign up, and you can get either the ebooks or the physical books.
Yeah.
A proportion, you need to give your child, okay, if you want to go and watch TV, for every hour you want to watch TV, I want you to do 2 hours reading. You want a game? No problem at all, For every hour of gaming you want to do, I need you to do X amount of time reading.
Right.
So that, and then I want you to do X amount of time socializing with other children. And then I want you to do a life of the saint. And then I want you to do a little time of prayer. And help the child to structure their day so that they have a variety of opportunities for growth, for leisure, for entertainment, for the things they want to do, the things you want them to do.
Listen, there's no boredom in that. You don't have time to be bored. I just let you all know, you don't have time to be bored.
By introducing disciplined reading to your child as part of their day, you could jumpstart their language skills.
Yeah.
You could jumpstart their vocabulary, the overall English proficiency. Now, this also has camps. Go on their website, check out the camps, check out the dates, register your child on the camp. These will not break your budget. NALIS is a service for the children or for the people of Trinidad and Tobago. And they also have audiobooks on their library and ebooks. So I want to say, and we gave you many options. So you have the Bible Institute Children's Camp. You have joining NALIS and getting access to your books. You have form.org, where you could get your free videos and audiobooks on the lives of the saints, and a lot of great material for the family to sit and watch and have conversations about the faith. Then you have your parish and your communities, your sports. By the time you're done, when your child makes a plan, does their budget, and manages it for themselves, what you'll find at the end of the holiday is a child that has a lot more structure. Don't forget board games, you know.
Yeah.
Not only great fun, but character building and great socializing for children. And on your list, make sure you include community service. Let them, a group of them go to the church and clean something. Ask St. Vincent de Paul if there's an elderly person who needs something done in their house, and let a group of them go supervise with a chaperone and do something for an elderly person, especially if you have older teenage kids.
You know, you also spoke about parishes supporting camps like that. And, I would like parishes to support like underprivileged families in providing a kind of structured holiday activities for them.
Correct.
Like what we're talking about it with St. Francis of Assisi in Sandy Grande. Those are critical things where the church could also get involved in fostering community learning during the holiday periods.
Yes. And you could also introduce some old-time games, you know,
Hey.
like marbles, like jacks, like spinning top, like jockey in the canal. And you could introduce them to how your childhood was spent, like cricket not in the street, in your driveway. You could introduce them to lots of little things. But whatever you do, just make it fun, please. Just make it fun, make it interesting to learn, and direct it out to others as far as possible, so they also have great socializing time during the holiday time. So what's my key message?
What's the key message?
Holiday times are high risk for many children if they do not have structured learning activities for them. They actually fall behind. Action step: engage your child or grandchild or your ward and have him or her put together a plan for holiday time. Ensure it contains the things that they want to do and the things that you want them to do, and have it well balanced, and also have some research opportunities at NALIS. And please assist a poor family with a holiday structure. So if ask St. Vincent de Paul, if there's a poor family that you could help, to help them with children, to help them have a holiday time that could get a little more structure, learning, etc. Take them to NALIS, get them books, etc., etc.
What's your scripture reading?
Proverbs 22:6.
Hey.
Train a child in the way he should go, and he will not deviate from it, even in old age.
Even in old age.
Even in old age.
Archbishop J, this has been such an enlightening conversation where we dealt with no time for boredom, lots to do during the holidays. And thank you for this conversation. And I think that, a lot of people would have learned something here that, yes, how can we help our children, and we don't put the minds to follow. All right, don't put the bags of up.
They need some, but
Yes.
not all.
Amen. Amen.
Father, we thank you for all the children of our nation, and we ask, Lord, give us the grace and the courage to create great opportunities for their learning over this next time. We ask, oh God, your blessings upon all of our children through Christ our Lord.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you so much, Archbishop J. God bless you. Pick up your Catholic news. Don't forget form.org. We made that part for you all guys. So get involved, structure, balance the holiday time also with good positive activities. Remember, we are on tonight at what time? 8 o'clock. Again, we're also on Sundays, and then you could always look up the social media and pick us up on YouTube and so on. God bless you. Thanks a lot, Archbishop J.
God bless.
God bless.